Allen Company looks forward to seeing you at Matt's in March.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The private sector is taking a crack at solving the truck parking crisis. Recently, a group in Texas broke ground on a new truck parking facility with 140 spots. We'll speak with Chris Storm, the man behind the plan. For years, a number of states have raised concerns about snow and ice coming off large trucks. One Pennsylvania lawmaker who's been involved in the issue is offering a potential solution to the situation. I'll talk with State Senator Lisa Boscola of Pennsylvania. And finally, later this week, a U.S. House subcommittee will discuss issues ranging from truck parking and restroom access to truck size and weight. I'll chat with Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Mark. Work will soon get underway on the next highway bill, and OOIDA will ask Congress to create policies that will benefit the nation's truck drivers. On Wednesday, OOIDA's Executive Vice President Lewie Pugh will testify on behalf of the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association in front of the House Highways and Transit Subcommittee. While reminding lawmakers how important truck drivers are to the overall economy, Pugh is expected to advocate for truck parking funding while opposing efforts to increase motor carriers' minimum liability insurance. The hearing, titled America Builds: How Trucking Supports American Communities, is scheduled for 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Just 2 weeks after the U.S. Transportation Department announced Adrienne Camere as acting administrator of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, she has stepped down. She has more than 20 years of legal and regulatory experience and previously served as chief of counsel for the Federal Highway Administration during President Trump's first term. No word on why the sudden departure or who will be taking on the role of acting administrator. Nearly 6,900 comments were submitted on the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's broker transparency proposal. The public was originally given 60 days to comment on the proposal, but after a change in administrations, the comment period was open for another month through March 20th. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association told the agency that strengthening and enforcing broker transparency regulations will help level the playing field between brokers and motor carriers. FMCSA will now begin reviewing the comments and determine whether to move forward with a final rule that would strengthen broker transparency regulations. 68 bridges in 19 states are on a risk assessment list by the National Transportation Safety Board. This all in the wake of the investigation into the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge outside Baltimore. A year ago this month, a container ship hit the bridge, causing it to collapse. 6 people were killed. In its investigation, the NTSB wants 68 bridges to be assessed to see whether similar scenarios could happen if a maritime vessel were to strike these bridges. During a press conference, NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy stressed that those assessments need to determine whether the owners of those bridges need to implement countermeasures and, if warranted, a comprehensive risk reduction plan that includes a minimum short and long-term strategy to reduce the probability of a bridge collapse from a vessel collision. She added that they're telling bridge owners that they need to know the risks and determine what actions they need to take. A recent groundbreaking in Texas means another option for truck parking will soon be available. Chris Storm is president of Safe Stop Parking and Lounge. We recently spoke about the project and all it will offer.
Well, it's been a lengthy process, but the project is a parking lot that's designed for trucks, for drivers that are in transit or making deliveries or pickups in the DFW area. It's located in southeast Dallas in the town of Hutchins, near the intersection of Interstate 20 and Interstate 45, which comes from the Gulf, from Galveston up through Dallas. And of course, I-20 is a major east-west thoroughfare. There's a lot of warehouse distribution and manufacturing in the area, and it's really one of the 4 gateways into the DFW community. It's designed for and really solely for that transient driver. We'll have, can describe the project if you'd like briefly. It's concrete paving. It will be as secure as we can make it, with multiple layers of security, including analytic cameras. We'll have a lounge for drivers with, of course, restrooms that we'll keep clean with showers, free Wi-Fi, laundry capabilities, drink and healthy food vending, food trucks, the things that we hope will make this a comfortable place for a driver who needs to stop, either for an hour's of service break or something else. It will be available by reservation. We'll have gated entry, which will add to the security features. 140 spaces. We'll have the ability to expand by another 110 if it is as successful as we hope it will be.
To hear more on this project, stay tuned to later in our show. We have a number of drug seizures to tell you about. On March 12th, Customs and Border Protection officers at the Calexico cargo facility discovered liquid methamphetamine inside a fuel tank of a tractor trailer. A 36-year-old man was trying to enter the U.S. from Mexico when he was referred to the secondary inspection area. During that inspection, a CBP K-9 unit alerted officers to the presence of narcotics. 962 pounds of liquid was extracted and tested positive for methamphetamine. The next day, in a separate incident, a duffel bag of methamphetamine was discovered in a truck that was attempting to make entry from Mexico into the U.S. During a physical examination of the tractor, 7 duffel bags containing 140 packages of methamphetamine weighing around 700 pounds were found. Both individuals were turned over to the custody of Homeland Security investigations for further processing. The narcotics and tractor trailers were seized by CBP officers. In Texas, CBP officers intercepted more than $472,000 worth of cocaine in a tractor trailer. On March 19th, a truck hauling a load of ceramic brick into the U.S. at the Eagle Pass port of entry was selected for a secondary inspection. During that, CBP said in a release that officers discovered 16 packages containing over 35 pounds of cocaine. This has an estimated street value of more than $472,000. CBP seized the narcotics and tractor trailer. Officers also revoked the driver's fast card and canceled the driver's entry document. The driver was then returned to Mexico. Homeland Security Investigations special agents initiated a criminal investigation. The city of Vail, Colorado, is cracking down on unchained vehicles. According to the Colorado Sun, the Vail City Council recently voted to fine drivers who violate the state's traction laws and block traffic. The fine was set at $2,650. The new law will also impose a $1,500 fine for vehicles without chains when the state chain law is in effect. According to the Colorado Department of Transportation, the Interstate 70 mountain corridor has been closed more than 200 times this winter because of spun-out vehicles. That's a 40% increase over the 2023-2024 winter season. And finally, police in Ohio had a unique chase on a busy highway recently. UPI reports that officers responded to multiple calls of a loose goat. The officers were able to catch the goat. It was later picked up by a local animal rescue group and taken to a farm where it was named Fugitive. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. The 2025 Mid-America Trucking Show runs from Thursday through Saturday this week. OOIDA will be there at booth number 20035. That's in the East Hall on the east side of the North Wing. Next, Ashley Blackford discusses a new truck parking facility under construction in Texas with Chris Storm, and I'll discuss a proposed program to install snow and ice removal equipment for truckers with State Senator Lisa Boscola of Pennsylvania. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long-haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Landline Now, welcome back. The lack of truck parking is an issue from coast to coast, but the private sector is stepping up in some areas. Chris Storm joins me now. He is president of Safe Stop Parking and Lounge in Texas. Chris, can you tell me more about this process and where you're at in it?
Well, it's been a lengthy process, but the project is a parking lot that's designed for trucks, for drivers that are in transit or making deliveries or pickups in the DFW area. It's located in southeast Dallas in the town of Hutchins, near the intersection of Interstate 20 and Interstate 45, which comes from the Gulf, from Galveston up through Dallas. And of course, I-20 is a major east-west thoroughfare. There's a lot of warehouse distribution and manufacturing in the area, and it's really one of the four gateways into the DFW community. It's designed for and really solely for that transient driver. We'll have, can describe the project if you'd like briefly. It's concrete paving. It will be as secure as we can make it, with multiple layers of security, including analytic cameras. We'll have a lounge for drivers with, of course, restrooms that we'll keep clean, with showers, free Wi-Fi, laundry capabilities, drink and healthy food vending, food trucks, the things that we hope will make this a comfortable place for a driver who needs to stop, either for an hour as a service break or something else. It will be available by reservation. We'll have gated entry, which will add to the security features. 140 spaces. We'll have the ability to expand by another 110 if it is as successful as we hope it will be.
And I'm sure it will be. Of course, our viewers, listeners, they know that truck parking is a major issue in the industry. When did this idea come about, and how did you get involved in this?
Actually, it's really been an evolution. I started looking at the truck parking industry probably almost 4 years ago, and looking at more of the long-term parking yards for smaller carriers, smaller fleet owners. The more research I did, the more apparent it became that the real crisis in the industry is for this kind of parking. It's the short-term parking. It's the parking that's forcing drivers onto the side of the road or entrance-exit ramps, church parking lots, maybe into truck stops where crime, cargo theft, human trafficking, vandalism, pilferage are prevalent. So, as I say, it evolved. You and I first talked after I met Lewie Pugh at the Mid-America Truck Show. It would have been 2 shows ago, I guess. And I talked with Lewie about this, very forthcoming. He's a guy to talk with. He told me my biggest problem would be the NIMBYs, the communities that do not want truck parking in their community. And as it turns out, he was right. It took me 18 months to get the proper zoning to do this, but I did. And now, through all of those meetings and processes, a number of members of the city council are very supportive. The staff is supportive. The police and fire departments in our community are supportive, all of whom were present at our groundbreaking a week or 10 days ago. The mayor and one of the city councilmen were there. Both spoke. They're glad, because I think they finally understand the depth of the issue for them and are interested in having a place where a driver can park safely for themselves, for their rig, and for their load, and for the community, to get them into a position where they're no longer a danger to other vehicles on the road. But still, it took 18 months to get there. Couple that with this is a difficult environment, or has been a difficult environment, for financing real estate construction and development projects. It literally took me 1 year to get this financed. That is done now too, and I had a number of potential financiers who wanted to work with us for a variety of reasons. They couldn't, mostly having to do with their real estate loan portfolios being full and not paying off as they should because of changes in interest rates. I mean, just a lot of different things that are, it's the nature of the beast, you know. But we got it done. We're underway. We'll look forward to opening this later this fall, towards the end of the year.
Were you surprised by the NIMBYs, the people who say "not in my backyard"?
Yes, I was. You know, this is a lovely community. It's a community that is largely composed of distribution centers, warehouses, and there's a lot of truck traffic on Interstate 45, on I-45. I think TxDOT says there are between 18 and 20,000 trucks a day on I-20 at that intersection. It's closer to 30,000. There's a lot of truck traffic there. And yes, I was. But as I say, I think, you know, as obvious as that should seem, that there is an issue, I think until people really focus on it and are educated as to the depth of it and the pervasiveness of it, that it's easier to say we'd rather not do that. Like I say, the community has become very supportive. They have become our partner in this. It's no longer adversarial. It was really never adversarial, but there's no point of contention now. They have become our partner in this. And that's, you know, good for me, good for us, good for the driving community.
Do you have any background in trucking, or like how did you get connected, you know, in this, and knowing that this is a huge issue and something that needs to be done?
My background is in the commercial real estate business, but 12 or 14 years ago, I began to get involved in a related business in trucking. I owned a truck wash and truck maintenance facility in western North Dakota. I lived in Montana at the time, in the Bakken oil field. And, you know, working there every single day, our customers were truck drivers, driving oil field equipment in that horrible, muddy, very difficult environment up there. And I got to be friends with a lot of drivers. And we talked about their business, talked about my business, easy people to talk with, great people. What struck me, one of many things that struck me, was, or were the stories they would tell me about not being able to get into an area when they show up for delivery, if it's not within their delivery window, having to park someplace inconvenient, unsafe, not being able to use the restroom at a warehouse or destination facility. And the sense I got actually was that many times these drivers were treated as second-class citizens. And I thought, how wrong is that? I mean, first of all, you get to know them. They're wonderful people. But the fact is they deliver and transport things all of us use every single day. And they deserve better than that. So I've kind of carried that sense of understanding with me throughout this. And in the course of designing this project, making it into something where a driver feels welcome and comfortable has been foremost. Now, you know, Ken Becker, one of your directors, is one of our advisory directors. Ken has graciously agreed to help with design, with philosophical understanding. He's been a driver his whole life. Ken and his wife, Elizabeth, came to Hutchins 2 times, drove up from their home near Houston 2 times to speak in our behalf at city commission meetings. And I think those presentations were really key in the education process that helped us with the community. I have another advisory director who works with me, Ingrid Brown. I don't know if you know Ingrid. Ingrid is on the board of Women in Trucking. Another advisory director, J.J. Coughlin, who's the chairman of the Southwest Transportation Security Council, there are 5 security councils that deal with cargo theft recovery, cargo security in the United States. JJ's chairman of the one in the Southwest, has become a close friend. So to the extent I lack the trucking background, which I acknowledge I do, what I am trying to do is to bring people who have that experience and that expertise into the business with me as advisory directors and work with them and take guidance from them. And so far, it's been really beneficial.
Do you think what you're doing, would you like to see this in other areas? As you know, as you've heard, this is an issue across the board, across the country. Do you think it's going to take people like yourself, finding property and building these kind of facilities?
Well, 2 questions there. Do we want to expand the concept and take it elsewhere? The answer to that question is absolutely, we do. I think step 1 is to get this property developed, operational. For me, I'm a fairly methodical person. I like to do a lot of research. I like to understand what I'm doing to the best of my ability. And I want to be sure that I do understand this and understand the operation and have the benefit of the feedback from our customers. That said, once that's done, I think our financial structure is such that we will have the ability to go elsewhere. And as you point out, the need is, well, it's not absolutely everywhere in the United States. I could think of some places in West Texas where truck parking is not an issue. But in the areas where distribution is centered, major highway intersections, it's a terrible problem. And I think there's that problem's big enough that it needs to be addressed multiple ways, and we'd like to be a part of that solution. I'm aware of bills in Congress, of bills in a variety of states. I read the Landline, I read other publications about truck parking. There's certainly governmental efforts that are in process to try to alleviate some of this. My observation is those are very time consuming. They take a long time. Based on the numbers I've seen, the cost per space of a private sector development is 15-20% of what it is if it's developed by the public sector. So I think we can deliver a product to the trucking community less expensively, and in most cases faster. Now, if we have a year and a half to get through zoning every single time we do this, it's going to take some time. But I think there are other communities that will move more quickly, and I think with the education that we can give them from having an example to show them, and actually having the willingness of some of the elected officials and the staff in this community to talk with their counterparts in other cities, I think we can move more quickly the second time through this.
That was Chris Storm talking about the Safe Stop Parking and Lounge that is currently being constructed in Hutchins, Texas. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when your truck on a cat scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
For years, a number of states have raised concerns about snow and ice coming off large trucks and damaging cars and motorists. And most have approached the situation with less carrot and more stick. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Redding. Welcome back to the program. One Pennsylvania lawmaker who's been involved in the issue for some time has decided it's time to get some carrot to go with that stick. And it sounds as if, from truckers' perspective, it could be a solution to at least part of the situation. That lawmaker is State Senator Lisa Boscola, who represents Lehigh and Northampton counties, a region known as the Lehigh Valley, which includes the city of Allentown and sits north of the Philadelphia metro area in Pennsylvania. Spurred by the death of a motorist killed by ice that came off a truck, she had previously worked on legislation that set fines for failure to remove snow and ice if it comes off the trailer and either injures or kills someone. It's a bill many truckers objected to great extent because of the obvious difficulty or near impossibility of climbing up on a rig to remove snow and ice. I recently spoke with Senator Boscola about her new bill, which takes a different approach. I'd like to talk about your efforts, of course, regarding snow and ice removal from trucks there in the state. And especially, I want to refer to a feature on the WHTM website, or a story on there, involving funding for equipment to remove this snow and ice. I know you had a bill back in 2023. At this point, do you have legislation ready for the current session, or are you at an earlier step in the process?
Right. So it was Senate Bill 472 of last session, and it was the Snow and Ice Removal Grant Program. What that would do is allow up to $2 million for facilities in Pennsylvania to put these ice removal systems in truck stops. So it was Senate Bill 472 of last session. It was a Snow and Ice Removal Grant Program, up to $2 million to allow facilities to have snow and ice removal, give them grants to put the snow and ice removal in rest stops, truck stops, whatever's available on our roadways. Because as I'm witnessing more and more accidents, I mean, for me, it all happened when Christine Lambert died. Chris Day just came off of a truck, shattered their windshield, killed her instantly. It was like an icy missile. Her husband and son were in the car. They had a very difficult time trying to just grab control of the vehicle because of the force of that icy missile coming through. And then just recently, Brandon Hennel was seriously injured. Thank God he's alive. Same thing happened. It's usually commercial trucks because the ice, the snow and then the ice that builds on them, once it ejects, it causes havoc on roadways, and it actually can kill people, and it has. So, and I fought so hard for the legislation to fine the trucking industry when this happens, because I want them to be held accountable for these type of injuries on our roadways. And I got a lot of pushback from truckers themselves saying, I'm not going to climb on my rig and injure myself just to clean the snow and ice off my vehicle. And where I think it's the responsibility of the truck and the trucking industry to clear those vehicles off for safety on our roadway, I do understand, especially from independent truckers, that they, can't be climbing on those rigs. They're big, they're tall. There's no really equipment available for them. So when I'm going through all of this, I did notice that companies in my own area, because this was years ago when Christine Lambert died, and, a lot of companies put de-icing devices on their property to begin with, like Coca-Cola, Walgreens. They're like, this is a real issue and we're going to do it. We don't need a grant. We don't need any help. This is something that's common sense. We should be doing this for safety on our roadways because our trucks are on those roadways. And in the Northeast, it does snow. But I did take into consideration what happens when trucks are going from, all the way from Massachusetts, down to Virginia. I mean, Pennsylvania is one of those states where we have a high traffic volume, and it comes from other states through interstate commerce coming all the time in the Northeast. So my thought was, once I had the law in place that would fine individuals if snow and ice dislodges and cause seriously bodily injury, that means $1,500 if that happens. But normally when a truck or ice is dislodged it happens so quickly. We can't get a license plate number. The truck doesn't stop. Sometimes I think they don't even know that ice dislodged off the top of their truck, and they just keep on moving. But if we can figure out who it was, we need to find those companies, use that money, and put it into the grant program so that we can have more de-icing equipment available in truck stops, rest stops, businesses on our roadways that cater to the trucking industry. It makes sense, to me. And then the law that I passed, that was passed in 2022, also said we are going to fine individuals that have snow and ice on their vehicle after 24 hours of a snowstorm, $50 if they're pulled over by the state police or police. Because that's more of a proactive position to take. So you want that snow and ice removed if it's posing a danger on our highway. But then after the fact, if it does cause seriously bodily injury or death, then there's a $1,500, fine, which, probably is too low. But I had to get something passed in a Democratic and Republican legislature with a Democratic governor. And also the next step. So that was the first step. But the next step was, how do we get this equipment to de-ice these vehicles on our highways when they're traveling from state to state to state? And they need a place to stop, and they need a place to get the ice off their, truck. So, I thought of the grant program, and, now it's a matter of trying to figure out how to fund it. It's not that much money. It's only $2 million. Our budget is billions of dollars. So, I thought it was somewhat reasonable. We are in a state that is the Northeast. It snows. And unfortunately, when the snow and ice cakes on your vehicle, it dislodges at some point. Yeah, there's multiple reasons why that I introduced that legislation. It's more to be proactive so that we can prevent the injuries from happening in the first place. You got to remove the snow and ice off the vehicle, because after the fact, they become icy missiles and they kill people. And they also, if you're not dead, you are seriously injured. If you would see Brandon Hennel and what he looked like in that hospital, I couldn't even imagine. It's tough, but I understand the trucking industry saying, we need help too. We need, grants, loans, whatever we need to put this equipment on our highways. And I think rest stops, way stations, that is the kind of appropriate place, or businesses that cater the trucking industry. I was thinking maybe they could lease space. Like if you're going to lease a space, a way station, a rest stop, and a business has a technology to get the snow and ice off the truck, then we can give that company the grant money, have the technology available at these way stations and truck stops.
I think one of the things that concerns our audience in particular, it's primarily made up of the individual truck drivers, is, I know you've talked several times about trucking companies, but we know from federal figures that 96% of trucking companies have 20 or fewer trucks. Half of them are just one truck operations. And so, of course, they're too small to have a facility in each state, especially if they're running coast to coast, which is a considerable portion. To what extent did that figure into your decision to seek funding for the removal equipment rather than just going with the fines?
Well, that was it. I mean, as I start delving into the issue more, I was hearing from individual truckers who were saying, look, my company is not investing in this equipment. I'm leaving. I'm going to state, and I'm not going to climb on top of my rig. It's way too dangerous to clean that snow and ice off. And I understand that. So what can we do in the state and as a state lawmaker to kind of prevent these type of accidents from happening in the first place? And so I was thinking it's the responsibility of state government. We are in the business of highway safety, and this is just one component. And like I said, it's a $2 million grant program. It's not that much money, but we can invest in de-icing equipment, getting snow and ice off these trucks. The grants are up $50,000 per device, right? Ice removal device, or up to $150,000 if you're going to put multiple devices in a certain location.
Okay. I want to ask you about something that I think, again, is something that our audience thinks about based on conversations I've had. And that is, in a lot of problems in trucking, we find that it's actually a very small portion of the industry that's creating a problem. And sometimes the majority feel like they're kind of held accountable for what the minority is doing there. How frequent are these problems? You've mentioned 2 terrible cases, and certainly I think everybody has immense sympathy for those individuals and what they've gone through. But how often are you seeing this problem?
Oh, it's a big problem. It happens even to me when I'm on the road, because I have to go 78 from here to Harrisburg. And a lot of times what happens is you're trying to dodge it, right? You're trying to avoid it. So you're skidding over into another lane. There's accidents happening because of that. Most people say they have damage to their windshield, their vehicles, their rear view mirrors, everywhere. And they show me pictures. So this happens more often than you think. It's just that when it's a death or you're seriously injured and maimed, that becomes the headlines, obviously. But if you ask anybody that travels highways in the wintertime, they will tell you this happens routinely. That just dislodges. Snow and ice has to go somewhere off of a vehicle. It just has to. And we said, look, we understand. We're not going to say to you, you have to do this while the snow's coming down. We're going to give it the same law as if you're shoveling your snow off your sidewalk. You have 24 hours after a snowstorm to do that. And we're allowing that with the trucking industry. I'm just hoping that a lot of companies with warehouses, the FedExes of the world, those big companies install this equipment in their facilities because they're big, right? They should be able to do this. However, what you're talking about, Mark, is so correct. There's a lot of independent truckers out there. They don't have the capability, or they're driving for one company or other that are small. So this is why I came up with the grant program, so that we have facilities available to them so they can drive through it. I am sure that individual truckers know what's happening and they don't want to cause this carnage on our highways, but they have no other recourse right now. There's nothing available for them to go through or to de-ice. There's nothing. And I'm just hoping that as technology improves, and it has, some of the de-icing equipment I saw like 5-10 years ago was bulky, heavy, and it's so much easier now. So as technology becomes better, I'm hoping that these de-icing type equipment becomes smaller, easier to install, things like that.
Once again, that was Pennsylvania State Senator Lisa Boscola talking about her bill to set up a grant program that could be used to help build snow and ice removal equipment for truck stops, weigh stations, and other facilities in the state that truckers frequent. Senator Boscola's bill has not yet been introduced into this year's session of the state legislature. We'll make sure to tell you when it is. If you want to contact your Pennsylvania lawmakers about this or any of the other issues in that state, you can find contact information at the website fightingfortruckers.com. At the top right of the page, click on the link that says Contact Your Representatives. Then scroll down to the lower left side of the page and fill in your contact info, and scroll down again and hit Continue. That should bring you up a page that has links to contact information for everyone who represents you on the state and federal levels. Again, that's at the website fightingfortruckers.com. And you can also keep up on legislation in Pennsylvania and other states by going to the website landline.media. We'll be back in just a moment with more. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now. Welcome back. Later this week, a U.S. House subcommittee will discuss trucking and its effect on American communities, and OOIDA will be there to explain the contribution of small business truckers and discuss some of the important issues about those small business truckers that are likely to come up. Here to fill us in on what's happening is Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Bryce, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How about yourself?
Very well. Let's kind of start with some of the basics here. What committee are we talking about? And their topic is awfully broad.
Yes.
Can you kind of sharpen up the focus for us a little bit?
Yes, so this is actually one of the subcommittees for the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. This is the Highways and Transit Subcommittee, but even then, it is a very large subcommittee. T&I committee is the biggest or one of the biggest in Congress, so there'll be a lot of opportunity for discussion there. And as you mentioned, the title is very broad, How Trucking Supports American Communities. But I think another way to think about this is that it's the subcommittee's opportunity to examine issues that are important to motor carriers, that are important to truckers, and kind of the trucking side of the transportation industry. But the charge they have, I think, is pretty broad with this hearing topic.
Mentioned at the top that OOIDA is going to have someone there, and that, of course, is our Executive Vice President, Lewie Pugh. Who else is testifying, and can we get any idea of what the committee's interested in based on who the other witnesses are?
Yes, so I'll run through quickly. We have a representative from the Truckload Carriers Association, or TCA. There's a representative from the American Farm Bureau Federation, a representative from the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, and a representative of the Shippers Coalition. Shippers Coalition is kind of a group that's been put together here on Capitol Hill, and one of the main advocacy goals they have is increasing truck weight limits, generally truck weight limits. So I think, again, I hate to keep saying I think it'll be broad, but certainly one of the things we expect to come up is truck size weight. That's something that these groups, all the groups that will be represented, have some interest and have a position on. From our perspective, certainly, we're going to be talking about things like truck parking, restroom access, probably minimum insurance will come up, driver training, and maybe a whole other list of things. But those are some of the top things I think we're expecting to be discussed, at least with Lewie.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about what Mr. Pugh plans to bring to the table on those, or at least some of those topics. And let's kind of start with the one that's really been big over the last few years, and frankly, longer than that, truck parking. And there is a bill in Congress, but what does Lewie plan to bring to the table regarding truck parking?
Yes, I think what Lewie is going to tell the Transportation Infrastructure Committee is both a thank you and please keep doing what you've been doing. As you mentioned, the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act has been reintroduced to Congress. It's being led by Congressman Bost from Illinois, who serves on the committee. The Transportation and Infrastructure Committee has passed this bill out of their committee the last two Congresses. So our message to them, again, is thank you for the work that you've done so far. We know that you've been moving on this. You're kind of doing your part of the job. But the bottom line is that this remains truckers' top proactive priority. The issue is getting worse, and we really need to work with you to figure out how to get this over the finish line. So it's a little bit different position, I think, than we've been in the past when testifying on this, again, because we know there's been good support for this on the committee. It's just a matter of getting the political support there to make sure everyone else throughout Congress is on board.
And something that's interesting about the whole truck parking issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of those rare areas where it seems like everyone involved in trucking agrees that this is something we ought to be addressing.
Yeah, absolutely. When I'm talking to lawmakers and their staff, I tell them that this is one of those issues where you're not going to get an angry call from someone if you sign on to this bill, because that's something that lawmakers always want to know. It's like, who am I going to upset? Who opposes this? But this really is something where we're not springing any traps or any surprises on anyone. Everyone is on the same page with this. So really, it's about as no-brainer as you can get in Congress today. I know you talk to any advocacy group or lobbyists out there, they will tell you their issue is a common sense solution, a no-brainer. Why would anyone oppose it? But if there was ever an issue where, it fits the bill, it really is the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act.
Let's go to another one that seems like an obvious gimme, but I'm sure somebody has an objection to it. And that is restroom access, which, again, has been an issue for many, many years. But, boy, it exploded during the pandemic and in the time after that. Again, we're hoping to see a bill in Congress this session. There have been bills in previous sessions. Again, what's kind of going on with that now, and what is Lewie going to bring to the table on that?
Yeah, so you referenced the Trucker Bathroom Access Act. That's been led by Congressman Troy Nehls, Republican from Texas, and Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan, a Democrat from Pennsylvania. We expect that legislation to be reintroduced here in Congress very soon. And, you know, what Lewie brings to the table is his experience having to deal with these issues unbelievably, and also just talking to our members and truckers at large about the issues that they face and simply finding a place to go to the bathroom. I know that when I'm talking to lawmakers or talking to their staff about this, it feels kind of weird because they're like, are you really telling me that truckers aren't able to go to the bathroom? And having someone who has done it and having someone who has that firsthand experience helps to show that, yes, this really happens and this really is a problem that needs to be addressed.
How would the bill address that problem?
Yeah, it's very straightforward. It's modeled after a bill from Washington State. Basically, if a business has a restroom that's available to customers or to employees, then truckers have the right to use that restroom when they're picking up or making a delivery. And so it does not require that businesses build new restrooms at all. It's only for existing restrooms that are there. And there's also exemptions or considerations written into the bill for safety or security concerns. Obviously, if, you know, one of the examples that someone brought up is like if you're a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility, there's probably locations where you have certain protocols in place and we're not trying to upset those. But generally speaking, if there's a bathroom that's easily accessible to the public or to employees, that's just something that truckers should have the right to use.
A couple of minutes left, and I do want to get to a couple more of these issues if we can. You mentioned earlier truck size and weight. That's another one that's been around forever.
Yeah.
And every time we think we've laid that one to rest, it seems to pop up again like a gopher. So what are we expecting to be kind of the terms of the debate this time around?
Yeah, you know, there's, like you said, this is the issue that won't die, and it comes up in many different forms. One of the ones that we've seen is this, you know, alleged pilot program, but it's really a 5-year period to allow states to increase their truck weight limits up to 91,000 pounds. We've also seen solutions that are commodity specific. So one of the ones that was recently introduced would allow for logging trucks or certain wood products to be hauled at heavier weights. And, you know, pick your commodity, and somewhere either at the federal level or at the state level, someone's seeking their specific exemption. And the message that Lewie can bring is that these weight increases are never a winner for small business truckers. Experience has shown our members that they never make more money or never take home more money when they're allowed to haul at heavier weights. All of these savings and efficiencies kind of flow up to the shippers, the manufacturers, and all that other stuff. And, you know, the other thing that frustrates us is that this is increasing truck weights is talked about as a solution to the alleged driver shortage, with the message being, you know, you can haul heavier, fit more stuff on one truck, and so you won't need as many drivers. So I think that shows how the work that we do down here is really important, because you have you know, pushing back on this driver shortage narrative that has worked its way into these other bad policies. So I expect that's something that Lewie will talk about.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for the information, Bryce. Unfortunately, we are running a bit short on time, so hope to talk to you soon, and let us know what happens after Wednesday.
Absolutely, we will.
I've been talking with Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. And folks, don't forget to call your members of Congress about these issues. The number to do that is 202-224-3121. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing.
My kids.
Chrome. And I am a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.